with lowest common denominator, endless rancid bullying and boredom, and everybody sit in a line and everybody sit in a row. The system that we inherited from the Prussians, who all they wanted to do was produce compliant soldiers and obedient drone-like brain-dead workers. And we took the system and we said this should be the foundation of our free societies. Yes, we should take one of the most repressive, child indoctrination, soul-stripping, brain-killing systems ever invented on this planet Earth, and we should use it as the inverted base of the pyramid, as the foundation of our free societies. That's what we should do. We should have children sit in rows, be droned at in value-free, inconsequential, useless, brain trivia, garbage-based information. And they have to raise their hands to go to the bathroom, and they can't really interact with each other, and Lord knows we don't seem to have any money left for physical activity. Playtime, going outside, have them go through metal detectors, make sure they don't get stabbed at some point during the day. We have a system where far more children are sexually abused by government teachers than ever were abused by, say, Catholic priests or Boy Scout leaders. But no, this is what we have founded our society on. This has been the slow undertow erosion of our human potential ever since. What does it matter if the government doesn't do a good job educating your children? They get the money anyway. They can compel the money from you anyway. They have no incentive to provide a good service. And what has changed? What has changed? 150 years ago, there was a room, there was a blackboard, there were 30 kids, and there was a teacher droning on. 150 years later, since we've had cars, flight, space flight, we've photographed the moons of Jupiter. We have connected humanity in a global spider web of intellectual possibility. And what has gone on in schools? Oh, look, there's a teacher, there's a blackboard, and there's 30 children in a room. Except now, they're not allowed to run around anymore. We don't even raise our children anymore. Some places you get 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 6 months to breastfeed and bond with your child. Then you dump that kid in a daycare while off you tootle back to work to enjoy the wonderful, hermetically sealed office politics of petty people in fluorescent, brain-deadening, veal-fattening pens called cubicles. So that you don't have the wonder and glistening moments of your child's exploration of the universe. Like the night that I stood beneath a skylight with my daughter, and she saw the moon through the skylight, and I saw the moon reflected deep in her eyes, and she said, "Moon." Like the idea had glistened deep in her eyes. We don't have those. Our children learn to walk while we're away. They learn words, curse words taught to them by the wretched hive specimens of older children. And they are dragged down into the squalid social sociopathy pits of the most damaged and broken and aggressive children among themselves. They learn to hide or conform or bury themselves in compliance. Don't speak back to the teachers. Don't think for yourself. And for heaven's sakes, don't run to authority if you have a problem with another kid, because they don't care. Go work it out amongst yourselves, they say. Children grow up non-bonded. They're bonded to their peers, not to their parents. So there's no conduit through which the ancient, essential society, civilization sustaining values, there's no conduit by which they can be dripped down and fed into the minds of children. When women stopped staying home, cultural transmission ceased. It ended. And all the values that our ancestors gathered together in blood, sweat, and tears for thousands of years, they got diverted. You see, the intellectual and emotional energy got diverted. No longer were we teaching our children the essential values of freedom, of free speech, of property rights, limited government, free markets. We weren't teaching our children any of that anymore. What were we doing? Well, the velvet honey-toned female maternal voices were no longer caressing the syllables of our civilization into the ears of our young, what were they doing? Picking up the phone saying, yes, customer service, can I help you? The kids are not all right. The kids are lost. And then came the great parental eclipse, the light of parental wisdom which was fading and eclipsed by work and schools and daycares and the indifferent tending of indifferent people on the essential needs of the young. We got eclipsed by our phones. I was at a park with my daughter today. A bunch of teachers around, a bunch of parents around, all the faces in their phones. You know, the kids are going to grow up and they're going to give Mother's Day cards to phone cases because that's all they see these days. And we're so tired from slaving away to make sure that we provide enough collateral that our children's futures can be borrowed against so that they can be sold to international banksters and buried under a financial slavery that is indistinguishable from medieval serfdom. We're so focused on all of that. We have no time, no energy for our kids. So we come home and it's like, here's a tablet, here's a computer. Yeah, you're playing on your video games. Fine. We can't connect with them. Teenagers are spending 7+ hours a day on screens. This is not what we're designed for. This is not sustainable. We need to stop everything. And we need to sit there and say, okay, if we were to design a society for the benefit of children, because if society is designed to exploit children, and that's what our society is designed to do, we trap them in government schools to make sure that the left-wing parties can get the political donations from the crappy government unions that the teachers inhabit. And it's not there to educate our children, it's there to indoctrinate them on they're going to die from global warming, and diversity is always a strength, and you need to learn your times table. Actually, I don't even know if that's around anymore. But not truth, virtue, goodness, connectivity, business, entrepreneurship, critical thinking. God, no. None of that. None of that. We bore them into raging compliance. What is boredom but rage spread thin? And so our children look at our society and say, well, they don't care about me. I'm there to be shuffled around and indoctrinated and profited from, and I'm there as a future taxpayer to be borrowed against. Society doesn't care about me. And then they see the blow dots of the psychotropic medications taking down children around them who do not comply, who do not smile, who do not acquiesce to the slow, wet-fingered extinguishing of the candles of their intellect. Those kids brought down by the wild amphetamines that can cost them brain mass. This is Soviet. They used to consider any Soviet citizen who did not love communism and be mentally ill to be drugged. So the kids are looking at the society and saying, well, you don't care about me. In fact, you are exploiting me. I am a form of livestock to you. And a society that does not devote itself to its children can expect no reasonable obeyance of its rules. This is what we do with children, with young men, with young women, is we say, okay, right, there's going to be things here that you're going to do that you don't really feel like doing. You know, you have to study and you have to avoid promiscuity and you have to not do drugs and, you know, just, you know, but on the other side of that, with this wonderful life you can have. Middle-class life, you get a car and a half, you get 3.2 kids, you get a nice house in the suburbs, and all you have to do is follow some decent, basic, reasonable rules. But we don't have anything to offer these kids anymore. And the rules are becoming increasingly bizarre and dysfunctional. And how are we going to What's the carrot? We have all the sticks in the world, but what's the carrot for obedience? Well, there isn't. There isn't. And the kids are full of nihilism. The economy is so indebted it cannot survive in its current incarnation. You've got all of these lunatics whispering that the world is going to end in 10 years because of global warming. We wonder why the kids are nihilistic and depressed and escapist and anxious and bored. If the world was going to end in 10 years, the last thing we do is bother educating the children. Right? So it's all nonsense. It's all a fetid overfolding of fatuous lies. And we got to sit there and say, okay, if we were to start building a society that made some kind of reasonable freaking sense, we would start with the true care for children. We would start with the transmission, the essential transmission of cultural values, so that our children are not raised by pixels and minimum wage workers. We'd say, well, the first thing we got to do is we've got to reunite. The mother and child reunion. We've got to reunite mothers and children. We've got to have a society where a mother can stay home with her children and breastfeed and cuddle and play and civilize and transmit the essential values that are the only fading retina echo of freedom that we still possess. The engine has died, but we had a steep ascent, and now we hang before a fall. We've got to have a sustainable society. We can't be having all of this national debt and unfunded liabilities, which in America go north of $180 trillion, about 10 times the actual economy. No debt. We've got to put parents back in control of children's education, which means no taxpayer coerced government schools. Parents got to be back in control of their kids' education, and they got to be moms at home. Maybe more homeschooling, maybe more community schooling. Maybe let the free market work in the realm of children's education. There's so much free knowledge out there. Why are we stuffing our children into dry, recycled air, no recess, lack of concentration camps? And we have to recognize what is unsustainable. And we have to be honest with our kids and say, listen, we really, really let things get away from us here. We let bad people and inertia and historical entropy decay the quality of your childhood into rank distracted escapism and fear and bullying, alienation, isolation. And we really, really let our entire society and civilization get away from us at your expense, because we didn't want to take on the teachers' unions. We didn't want to take on the entrenched special interest groups. So we just like, let them eat the kids' brains for breakfast. It would be troublesome to change the way the childhood runs in our society. It would be difficult. It would be challenging. It would be perhaps even unpleasant. And we made a terrible mistake. We made a terrible mistake in letting bad people who are not motivated by the welfare of children take over childhood. We let you guys to be sold off so that democracide could be committed by bribing us into extinction. We shouldn't have drugged children rather than fixed schools. We shouldn't have destroyed the family. We shouldn't be paying mothers to not have fathers around. We should have fixed things. We should have never let it get to this point. Ever. But we have. And what are we going to do? What are we going to do about it? Well, we're either going to fix it, or I think there's going to be more.